Good luck to all the loyal viewers of my Native American History YouTube channel. Today, we're opening one of the darkest and most shameful chapters in human history. This is the story of the slave trade, a time when people were sold by other people, a time when someone's pain became someone else's profit. Just think about it. Black men, women, and children were taken from their homes by force. Some never saw their families again. They weren't seen as humans, but as living property to be bought and sold. Why did this happen? How did it begin? And who gained the most? In today's video, we'll explain everything clearly and with real facts. What was the slave trade? When did it start? And how did it finally end? We'll take it step by step. Listen closely. Think deeply, because this isn't just history. It's a wound carved into the soul of humanity. Slave trade? This is one of the darkest chapters in human history. People were sold. People were bought. Have you ever thought about this? That once human beings were turned into living goods. Who sold them? Who bought them? Why did this trade continue for centuries? Let's reflect together. Let's take a deeper look into the true history of the slave trade. Please subscribe to the channel and hit the like button. It will take just a few seconds for you, but it will be a big achievement for me. 14th to 19th centuries. This was the era ruled by European colonizers. They didn't just conquer lands. They conquered people too. Yes, the slave trade became widespread during this period. Some countries even grew rich from human trafficking, turning it into a full-scale business. Where were the slaves taken from, you ask? Most of them came from Central Africa. Poor villages were raided. Survivors were captured, chained, and loaded onto ships. And even today, in some parts of the world, the slave trade hasn't completely disappeared. How did the slave trade begin? It all started in the 15th century. The Moors, Muslim people originally from Africa, were expelled from Spain and moved to the African coast. At that time, the Portuguese were controlling the African coasts, chasing down the fleeing Moors. The Portuguese captured many of them and took them to Portugal. Those captives became the first African slaves in Europe. And what happened next? Wealthy Moors tried to free their relatives. They offered the Portuguese money. But the Portuguese didn't want money. They wanted slaves. They needed free labor for their new colonies. So, what did the Moors do? They offered other black Africans in exchange for their relatives. Yes, one person in return for several others. That's how this shameful trade began. This was the beginning of the slave trade system. A human being had become a living product.
How did the slave trade expand? By the end of the 16th century, the slave trade had reached its peak. It had spread widely across Europe and the Americas. It wasn't just a source of wealth. It became the main tool for controlling colonial territories. People didn't see it as a sin, but as a necessity. Through slavery, they colonized lands in the New World and built strong economies. But one question arises: where did the slaves work? They weren't only brought from Africa. They also worked across North and South America. Was the slave trade legal at the time? No. Many well-meaning people and movements raised their voices in fear and protest to stop it. The abolitionist movement, led by the Quakers, is a clear example of this. What was done to stop the slave trade? In America, many efforts were made to end slavery. With the help of the Quakers, several states passed laws to abolish it. And in Europe, England and France also passed laws against the slave trade. England banned it in 1807, and France followed in 1814. But did the slave ships stop? No. Slave traders continued to sail with their black cargo, transporting slaves to the colonies with little to no interference. Banning the trade didn't mean stopping it completely, even though countries like the US and those in Europe officially banned the slave trade. In parts of South America and Asia, it continued for some time. Brazil didn't free its slaves until 1888, though new slave purchases had already been banned. Eventually, the fight against slavery succeeded. In America, England, and France, slavery was officially abolished. Conclusion: the slave trade is one of the darkest chapters in human history. Many people fought to end this cruelty. Yet even today, some forms of slavery still exist. What does the history of slavery teach us? It reminds us how important it is to protect human rights and fight for justice.